Hello, this is Andrew with Space Tech, and this is the OrBIt Quick Start video. How to get up and running with Space Tech OrBIt software for your Volvo or Polestar. When you purchase OrBIt, you will get a welcome email when your account is created, and that welcome email contains a link to the FAQ on the website here, and there are a few resources to get started. One of them here is the link to this video that you're watching. The second one is the link to download the OrBIt installer. And you'll want to download that installer so you can install it on your computer. When the installer is downloaded, you can go ahead and launch it. It will ask for administrative rights. You need administrative rights to install OrBIt, but you don't need administrative rights on the PC to run it once it's installed. Once OrBIt is installed, you can launch it straight away from the installer and start running it. I'll show you where to find it. A shortcut will be created on your desktop as well. The first time you start OrBIt up, when you first install it, it will need to download some config files, which takes about 10 seconds or so. And occasionally OrBIt, when you start it, may download updates of those files. And once that's done, we'll start up, and OrBIt needs us to log in. So here you'll enter your OrBIt account email address, and that will be the email address that the Welcome to OrBIt email was sent to. And that's usually your PayPal address email. And if you want to change that later, you can change the account email. Just contact support and we can change it for you if you like. I'll enter my email. And I do that, click send code. Now I'm going to get a code email from a service called Stitch to my email with a 6-digit code to log in. And I'll go grab that now. And I'll paste that code in here. Click verify. And OrBIt should start up. Now is the time you want to get your car connected to the computer. You should have a Volvo VOE adapter. Here's an example here. You should plug in the OBD side of the cable to the OBD port in the driver's footwell area of the car, and the other side you plug into a wired network port on your laptop. Now we should be able to connect to the car. The first time you connect to a car, OrBIt will prompt you to create a profile. So it's going to read the car and store some information about it. And I will click OK to do that. And that will take about 2 or 3 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. So I'll jump ahead in the video and then we'll come back when the profile is finished creating. Now the profile is created and we're connected to the car. And you can see if we disconnect and reconnect to the car, we don't need to create a profile every time we connect. You will occasionally be asked by OrBIt with updates to update the profile or when it gets out of date, and you can do that manually here, but you don't normally need to do it frequently. Now there's some basic information on the Shortcuts tab here. This contains all the sort of quick things. There's some readout of car info over here. We have the engine oil level. The usage mode here is inactive, meaning the car is off. We show the 12-volt battery voltage, the charge level, and there's some additional battery information depending on the car. So if you have a mild hybrid, it'll show the 48-volt battery charge here. This is a PHEV, a T8, so we can see the high voltage battery charge level, as well as the state of health of the battery, which is a little over 96% in my car. Down here you can see some real-time on the bottom right, real-time information. So the current usage mode of the car, that's like the ignition mode, and the 12-volt battery live display. If you're interested in making configuration changes to your car, then you'll probably want to enter the pins now and save them in the profile. So those are highlighted yellow, what you need to do here, and it depends on your car, which system it is, if you need a CEM and a VGM pin for that, but OrBIt will detect that and see that I don't need a VGM pin, but I do need to set a CEM pin. If you purchase the CEM pin service from us, or you already have the CEM pin, you can just click here and set the pin. And if you are getting your own pin using the DIY process, you can come over here and feed your Wireshark file into the pin finder and load the Wireshark capture file. And OrBIt should parse it and crack the pins inside. And we see we've cracked a CEM pin, and you can save the report as a text file. When you click close, OrBIt will ask you, do you want to save these pins to the profile for the car? I'll say OK. And now we've saved a CEM pin, so this button changes to change CEM pin. And if we want to see what's stored, we can click on the change CEM pin button. We can see the pin that's stored. We can change it if it's not correct, or if you want to remove it, you can click clear, and that will remove the stored pin. So now we have the CEM pin saved. We'll talk about some of the basics here on the main page before we look at config quickly. The main utilities page here, you have a few things. You can read DTCs, trouble codes, and clear them. We'll go ahead and read trouble codes now from the car. I have some trouble codes in my car here. It'll come up and show all of the codes from all modules. You can pick out the modules in yellow that do have codes, and the others are the ones that in green don't have codes. And the codes are color coded by the status. So yellow codes are pending. They haven't failed this cycle, and the red codes are currently failed faults. And you can click on the code details here down the bottom to see individual status and also the exact timestamp of the codes were set. On some modules, they don't keep very good track of time, so the timestamps aren't always 100% reliable. But they generally are useful to see when a code was set, if it was recently or a long time ago. Now I can erase DTCs and read them from here as well while I'm viewing. So if I click to erase the codes, OrBIt should run the DTC clear. And DTCs are cleared. Now that I've cleared them from this dialog, it's asking me if I'd like to scan them again. We can rescan the codes. And as expected, there's no DTCs found. You can also reset all ECUs. So this is what we call a warm reset of all the modules in the car. Sometimes it's going to be useful to solve glitches or problems. So it's an easy thing to do. If I click OK here, it's going to send a command and restart all the modules in the car. That includes the gateway to the car as well. So OrBIt should wait and reconnect to the car once the gateway is reset and comes back up. And the reset's complete, and we're connected to the car again. Another view you have here is the car network. So this should show the topology of the networks in the car, and it should show all of the modules that are in the car. So the ones that are gray, this car doesn't have, and the ones that are green are online modules. And if you have any modules that the car should have that are offline, they would show in red. So this can be a useful view to see the topology of modules in the car. There's also a car system status view here. It shows a little basic information about the car. The ESC brake system, it should show green if it's okay, and it also shows that the electronic parking brake service is off. You can actually click on this and engage park brake service mode. This is to retract the parking brakes if you're performing brake service. If I click OK here, it should retract the brake, the rear brake. And it's released a service position, and I could do a brake job on the rear of the car, and when I'm done I can come back here and see that the service mode is still on, and if I click this I can turn it off, and this will set the park brake in the car back to normal mode. There's also a config check button here. This can be useful when you have made some configuration changes to the car that may be a problem. So this shows that the CEM reports that the configuration of the car is okay. And if you see there's an error here, it will turn red, show error, and you can click on this display to see a report of what config items are in error. There's an odometer display here. It should show miles or kilometers based on what your local unit is, but you can click back and forth between the two. You can also see the last time the car was serviced and your operational mode here. Most times this should be normal. If you're working on cars that are crashed, you can set them back to normal mode this way. Just by clicking here, it'll show that it's in crash mode. And then you can change directly to normal mode or dyno mode. So if you were going to put a car in the dynamometer, you have to disable many of the safety systems so it could be run on a dyno, and the car has a dyno mode, so you can put it in dyno mode. But that shouldn't be driven on the street, just so you know. If I had air suspension, the air suspension status will be displayed here. But this car doesn't have air suspension. There's also a service tab. Service tab is where we have service procedures and maintenance procedures on the car that might be useful to you. And these are enabled and disabled by what equipment your car has. For example, we have a feature to program a new steering control lock here, and this car does not have a steering column lock, so that's grayed out. Same with air suspension. This car doesn't have air suspension, so air suspension calibration is grayed out. So everything that's enabled should be what applies to your car. There's also service procedures here that are based on a catalog that is what applies to your car. I won't go over all of these here in this video. It's just a quick start, but it's to let you know where to find those things. All of these service procedures we'll also find on the next tab that I show you, and that's the ECU Tools tab. So the ECU Tools tab is tools that are specific to particular modules. So we can see a list of all the modules in the car here, and I can choose a module. And I have some things I can do with that. I can reset the individual ECU, and this is not a warm reset. This is a what you would call a cold reset, like rebooting your computer. So if you need to reset a module, there's a problem in the car, you can select the module here and reset it. You can show stored DTCs, trouble codes for the car. Last read it didn't have any codes, so we don't see any here. You can also show the ECU info. So this is the collected info in the profile that OrBIt has stored. So it stores the software that's installed, what are the part number, serial number, etc. as well as the last date that it was updated in the profile. Here you can also set a pin. So setting the pin on the shortcuts page is setting a specific pin for the CEM, but there are other pins in the car for various modules, and set a pin for another module. You can choose that module and choose the level of the pin and save it here. You probably won't use send CMD as a new user. It's a bit of an expert's tool, so I probably would leave that alone. There are some specific tools for other functions. There are HCM tools for headlight replacements that are useful here. And for every module, we have a range of data that can be read from those modules. This is rather freeform. It's just what's available and what we know about and what is cataloged. So sometimes these things can be useful. For example, I could read the engine state signal from the CEM here. It's in an after-run state, which means it's off. So you can find that data. Everything has a filter here. So if I wanted to find something about the locks, I can find that data here and read it from the car. And then the next column over here, we have related service procedures. And this shows the service procedures that are the same as the service tab, but they're specific to the module that you're looking at. So it can help you find things a little bit easier. Say I wanted to calibrate the windows. I can go to the DDM, which is the driver's door module. And I can see we have the front door window calibration and rear door window and sunblind calibration available. So you may be interested in config, and we can get started with that here with the config wizard tab. So there's two tabs for car configuration in OrBIt. The config wizard is the simple and easy way to do things that's automated, and the configurator tab is the advanced way to manage the configuration in the car. So not everything's in config wizard, but I will go over that after we talk about the configurator. So the configurator shows you all of the config items in the car. The initial list here is not all of the items. These are generally the items that are safe to change in the car and common to change. But if you click the checkbox to show everything, this will show every item in the car. So you can see this configuration for everything, how many wheels drive the car, what kind of drivetrain, etc. And all those things are contained in configuration. The configuration can also be searched, so it's a free text search. So if I was looking for something specific, I can just type it in and try to find it. So here I found CarPlay and Android Auto, and those settings can be changed here. So I will leave that alone and come over to the config wizard. So the config wizard is a simplified way to change config in the car where OrBIt picks the correct settings for you. So these settings are generally very safe because you can choose from options that are known to be safe for the car or configurations that are used by Volvo that are known to be compatible. For example, if I look at the CarPlay options here, I can see the various options that the car I'm connected to supports, which is CarPlay, Android Auto, and CarPlay and Android Auto, and those are the wired options. If I look at the configurator table, I see more options that are available in the config wizard. These config items exist, but that doesn't mean that the car supports them. So I have options for wireless device mirroring, CarPlay, and Android Auto, but the car doesn't support it. So it's up to you in the configurator table to know what your car supports, whereas the config wizard displays to you options that are known to be supported and safe to use. Many of these things are made easier than they are in the configurator because we put names to them. So the Bowers and Wilkins, Harman Kardon audio, for example. There is something specific about the towing page here. You can set a tow hitch, which is fairly popular to do. And you can also load the TRM from here. I don't have a trailer module in my car. But if you do, you can click this button, TRM reload, if you install a brand new trailer module. Used modules, you don't usually need software loaded to them. But if you have a new TRM trailer module loaded in the car, you can click this button and OrBIt will read what kind of trailer module it is and install the correct software for you. And there are a number of other settings. Everything here should be filtered to what the car is capable of generally. So I have a plug-in hybrid, so we can see on the auto start stop page that the options that don't apply to my car are grayed out because there's no need to set stop start for the hybrid car, which can move without starting the gas motor. The other thing you'll see is the configurator tab reflects all of the changes that you make here. So if I change this to auto high beam, and I made some other changes, I can come over to the configurator tab and remove my search, and all the changes that I made will be highlighted in yellow. And I can click the show changed items button here to see only the items that are changed. So I can see the config items that were changed by my changes in the config wizard. And you can use this to make other changes to config. If you want to make changes outside of what the config wizard supports, you could make the changes on your own. Like I use level 3, pilot assist, adaptive cruise control, but that's not a config setting that Volvo uses in cars, so the config wizard doesn't let you set it. But it's available in the car, and you can set it and see if it works in your car. So I have changed that back, so now it's not showing. If I refresh the changed items, I can see, again, only the items that were changed. And those are reflected back in the config wizard, so the change that I make back to level 3 pilot assist is shown here, selected. So the changes you make in the config wizard and the configurator are synced. So you see the same changes no matter which way you're looking at it. And if I want to reset the config from the car, I don't want to make these changes, I can just click this button, reload from car. And when I do that, it reloads the configuration from the car and puts all of these back to what they were, so they're no longer changed anymore. So let's make a change to the car and go ahead and write a config. So I'll change my speed limiter here, and I have a button write to car. This is how you write the configuration change to the car. And these buttons are echoed in the config wizard, so you can click this button to do the same thing. So if I click write to car, now this button will only be enabled when you are licensed for the car for config and flashing, and also that you have a pin saved. So if you see that this button is grayed out, you're either not licensed for the car or you haven't saved a pin yet. So if the capability is not there to write a config to the car, then the button will be grayed out. And I will go ahead and click this button, and when I do that, OrBIt is going to show me a list of the configuration items that will be changed, so that there's not any doubt. I won't make any changes by mistake. I can review the list of items that are changed, and if I accept them, I click OK, and OrBIt is going to do software programming and write the configuration to the car. And this process takes about 3 or 4 minutes. It's not very long. It's going to check that all of the ECUs are okay, awake, and ready. It's going to go into programming mode. And for a new user, you might not be familiar with this, but all the displays in the car will turn off, go black when the car goes into programming mode. And that's completely normal. All of the modules boot up into programming mode, so the displays are off. It's not normal operational mode. So don't freak out at this point. You'll see that now the car is reconnected in programming mode. You can follow along on the screen log here. Programming is happening. It's very quick to program a config, so that's already done. And now we're exiting programming. And then OrBIt will go into post-programming. So when you change the config in the car, there are a lot of things that may need to be cleaned up so you don't get warning messages and trouble codes and such from a config change. Those things should be all cleaned up by OrBIt in post-programming. So the post-programming process will run a number of processes that make everything happy in the car. And that will take a few minutes, so we'll jump ahead in the video. Now the config flash is complete. We see that it was successful and post-programming is complete, and I can see now the configuration read from the car matches the new setting that I wrote, so my speed limiter is now 175 miles an hour. So now that I've written a config, I can make further changes at any time to the car, so I can change another setting and I can write that to the car. I can make changes as many times as I want. And at some point, you may want to put the car back to original. If you have a config issue and you can't figure out what config item is causing a problem in the car, while they're generally safe, sometimes you can have problems where you use a config item that the car doesn't support. And if you're not sure what changed, you might want to put it back to original. You may want to put it back to original as well when you take the car to the dealer. Although it's generally safe to leave the car with configurations and have it go to the dealer and it's connected to the Vita system, it's preferable if you restore the car to original, so that way techs at the dealer aren't confused and it doesn't cause any strange issues with the car. And the way that you do that is this button here, Restore to OEM. As I said before, the buttons are echoed on the config wizard, so there's a Restore to OEM button here as well. The Restore to OEM button is special, so you don't want to change the configurations of the car back to the original. You want to use Restore OEM to restore the car to original. Now, before you do that, let's talk about a couple of other buttons here that could be useful in the case you do that. So you may have made a lot of changes to the car and you don't want to have to remember those changes. So OrBIt has the ability to save the settings. So I can take all these config settings here that are set in the car and I can save those to a file. So if I pick a new date here, and I save this file, all the config settings in here have been saved and I can load those settings at any time. So if I pick settings to load, that will load the config settings into the configurator. Now, there aren't any changes here, but we'll take a look at that when we've restored to OEM. So I don't have to remember what config changes I made. I just save the config of the car as it is, and then I can restore that later. So now we're going to restore to OEM. So this is going to put all settings of the car back to original. It doesn't come from a backup. The way that OrBIt works, it's the equivalent of wiping the configuration of the car. So anything that you have changed will not be changed anymore. So I'll click Restore to OEM. OrBIt's going to ask me if I want to flash OEM config to the car. If I have an Android car, it's also going to ask me if I want to retain the OTA update that is queued in the car, if there is one. And you can say yes to that if you want to preserve that update so that you can restore the car to OEM before you apply the OTA update. So that feature is there to do that. Normally, the OTA updates are canceled by software installs, so OrBIt allows you to bypass that. So I'm going to go ahead and flash OEM configuration to the car, and we're going to go through the same process as the config flash. It's going to flash a bit of software to the car and do the post-programming to make sure everything is clean. So we'll skip ahead in the video and we'll come back when that is complete. Now the software flash is complete and the car's been set back to the original OEM configuration. And that's reflected in the configurator here as well as the config wizard. Now I could take the car to the dealer for service or otherwise connect it to Vita and its original OEM configuration. And when I want to set the car back, say it comes back from the dealer, service is complete, I want to set my settings back, I can use the load settings feature here. So if I pick my file that I just saved, OrBIt is going to load all of my customized settings into the table and set them so I can flash them. And if I click Show Changed Items, you can see all of the items I have tweaked on my car here, and I'm going to write them back so that my customized configurations are all set here. So this is going to be another config flash, and you can see when there's a lot of items I want to review and make sure all the items changed are expected. And it looks good, so I will click OK. And now OrBIt is going to flash my configuration back to my customized settings. And now my config is complete and all my custom settings are set again. Now there's one more thing I'll show you. If we make a change here and click Write to Car, in this dialog where you confirm the changes, you can also save a preset here. And this is a little bit different than the save settings. So save settings is specific to your car because it saves all of the settings in the car. So you don't have to know what setting changes you made. You can use that as an import file. Save preset saves a file that is only the change that you make here. So that can be useful if you work on multiple cars, or those files could be traded between people to put settings together. Sometimes as support, if we're helping you, we might send you a preset file to show you what settings to change for a particular equipment or config change that you're making. So that can be useful there to save a set of changes as a preset file. That saves as a text file that you can open and has a little bit of a guide to edit it as well. So that's another way to save settings. And I'll reload from car here. And lastly, let's talk about support. So if you find that the right to car is grayed out and you should be licensed for your car and you have added a PIN, then contact support. We're happy to help you. Likewise, if your config flash is not successful, OrBIt should give some feedback as to what the problem is. But those things can be hard to sort out, and a lot of those problems we may have seen before. So you're welcome to contact support if you see issues with flashing config to your car. And that's about it for configuration. We'll take a look at one more thing that I skipped over before we go, and that is software flashing. Software flashing is a bit more advanced, so not all customers are going to replace modules or swap modules and equipment in the car. But sometimes when you do that, you're going to need software. And on the ECU Tools tab, we have a software flashing dialog. And it's fairly advanced in that if you have software files and you know what you're doing, you can use this tool to flash modules in the car. The other part of it is we do offer a service for module reloads. So if you have a module replacement or other challenge and you need to load software, we can create software packages with the correct software for the car, and whatever else is needed in order to load a module. And if you have that need, you can contact us. There's a little bit of information on here on what information we need and where to contact us, and we can help you get software on modules. And that wraps it up. This is the end of the quick start here. I did not go into depth on everything you can do in OrBIt and the details. There is a lot, but hopefully I've shown you how to do config changes and where to find the other things that you might be looking for service and diagnostics in the car.